we had been hoping that we might still see the Belgian Air Component solo Viper display on the circuit this year, but due to the drawdown of the Belgian F-16 fleet and their operational requirements, they took the decision to discontinue the solo display for this season. But in fact, the aircraft in the Flypast is being flown by last year's F-16 demo pilot from the Belgians, Commandant Aviator Steven de Vries, known as Vrieske. It's rather appropriate for Vrieske to be here because he's Europe's most experienced F-16 pilot in terms of flying hours on the type in its entire 50-year history. In fact, we're seeing a very good illustration parading down the northern taxiway there of F-16 evolution, because the Belgian jet, which is actually a two-seat F-16 BM model, one of the first generation of then General Dynamics built A and corresponding two-seat B model F-16s. But then we have the significantly more up-to-date Lockheed Martin built Block 52 Plus F-16 of the Hellenic Air Force, with the distinctive conformal fuel tanks on the fuselage sides affording quite a different appearance. And clear to take off exactly on time at minute 58, with 2 minutes prior to the second element of the formation lining up and taking off in turn. See that they're in what's known as high-low-high formation. The first aircraft goes higher than the second, and the third aircraft goes higher than the first aircraft goes higher than the second aircraft goes lower than all, and the third aircraft tries to match the first aircraft, thus avoiding wing turbulence of the aircraft in front. The Danish F-16 in it. We still expect to comprise the Belgian and Greek F-16s. the superpowers, but the 1979 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan temporarily ended that. The American cruise missile deployments, not least to the United Kingdom, were a sign in the early 80s of the tensions being ratcheted up once again. But with the events of the mid to late 1980s and arms control efforts, particularly in the nuclear regime, things began to change, and the end of the communist regimes in Poland, Czechoslovakia and Hungary went on to lead to the membership of those countries following the split of the Czechoslovakia into the Czech Republic and Slovakia being admitted as members of the NATO alliance. In from the right comes our NATO 75th anniversary Flypast. In the lead, the Boeing RC-135W Rivet joint from number 51 Squadron at RAF Waddington. With it, a Czech Air Force Gripen, a French Air and Space Force Mirage 2000, and the Italian Air Force Tornado. It's escorted by a German Air Force EF-2000, a Spanish Air Force SF-5M, and a Finnish Air Force Hawk Mark 66. From the Belgian Air Component, an F-16C from the Hellenic Air Force. Contingency plans that have been briefed this morning. Fast jet, loss of fast jet elements. Brief there is for the packet lead to position the aircraft for symmetry where possible. And the final wave of the Flypast, a US Air Force F-16CJ, Turkish Air Force F-16C, and Romanian Air Force F-16AM. Mark, about the aircraft that led the Flypast, because we're not going to see it landing here, unlike all the others. The RC-135W Rivet joint from number 51 Squadron at Waddington. Yeah, real cutting-edge technology in terms of a reconnaissance. Mark, what does that mean in aviation parlance? So initials, it is a virtual place, which is about 2 miles from the end of the active runway. Not always used as a geographical point, but something that is an initial call. So an aircraft running in at 300 knots, which is doing 5 miles per minute. Call to the brake is approximately 25 to 30 seconds, and it just gives air traffic control a good idea of at what point the aircraft will start to brake and join the downwind. In particular, very useful in a busy circuit environment where there may be other aircraft in the circuit at the same time. Following them in, we'll have the Luftwaffe EF-2000, that fabulous multi-role fighter now in service with 4 NATO members. The brake is the Hawk Mark 66 of Fighter Squadron 41 of the Finnish Air Force at Tikkakoski, representing one of NATO's two newest member states, Finland and Sweden, in the Flypast. We'll see them both in solo display action a little bit later on. The Czech Gripen then, the first to roll out, demonstrating its special markings for the 211th Tactical Squadron at Czech, which this aircraft comes from.
Some slight differences there with the process of a run-in and break. A run and break is the quickest and most efficient way of getting a fast jet or formation of fast jets from the airborne environment onto the ground. Slightly different here in that usually the break would take place from the dead side. Not allowed today because we have public on the dead side, so these breaks are conducted from either over the runway or slightly live side, which puts the downwind position slightly wider than it would normally be.
Having gone around for its initial approach by the Mirage 2000-5F of the French Air and Space Force, one of, as I say, many aircraft. It's extremely rare to see in a flying display, and more of those in the two groups of F-16s, which will be the next to come through. The F-16BM of the 10th Tactical Wing of the Belgian Air Component, at the F-16C Block 52 Plus of 336 Squadron of the Hellenic Air Force from Araxos will be accompanying it in. And then the final group, the F-16CJ of the 480th Fighter Squadron, US Air Forces in Europe and Africa, from Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany. That's a version of the F-16 optimised for the SAAB, Suppression of Enemy Air Defences mission, carrying the AGM-88 HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missile, or the AGM-45 Shrike anti-radar missile. The 480th now the sole flying squadron on F-16s at Spangdahlem, and one of its jets reached the notable milestone of 10,000 flying hours in June. A beautiful sight there as the SF-5M of the Spanish Air Force rolls out. And with the American F-16 in the final formation, we'll see on the break, well, Solotürk from the Turkish Air Force needs little introduction. One of the many F-16s, the majority of their fleet in the Turkish Air Force, licensed built in country by Turkish Aerospace Industries. And the last one, the rarest bird of the F-16s in the Flypast, the F-16AM from Escadrilla 53 of the Romanian Air Force at Pitești, making the first Romanian F-16 appearance at a British show.
seconds turns to 60 years. Years of the red arrow. We ensure our partner airforces
focusing on tomorrow.
Together, we are unleashing the power of combat air.
Still bringing the remainder of the F-16s into land, but now back up to Andy Marler for more from the showground.
Thank you, Ben. Of course, a very busy site here at RIAT for 2024, and if you do get separated from your child, don't worry, we can reunite you more quickly with the help of our child safety wristbands. They're being handed out for free at our customer entry points and at our visitor information points as well. So if you get hold of one of those child safety wristbands, we can reunite you with your lost child this afternoon.
Partner air forces have combat air capability.
Focusing on tomorrow. That's why we say software technologies are making a positive impact on our wider society, developing skills, strengthening supply chains, striving for net zero.
We're building strategic relationships on a local, national, and global scale.
Our people are everything. We're creating a culture that values diversity and celebrates community.
Together, we are unleashing the power of combat air.
So many of the remnants now of the NATO Flypast formation running into the circuit, one calling short initials there, one aircraft downwind, and further aircraft to come in on the break over the next couple of minutes. Italian Tornado, NATO 15 or NATO 15 on final now. Very nice scheme marking the first flight of what was then known as the Panavia MRCA, multi-role combat aircraft, back in 1974 on the Italian Air Force 200-seat Tornado. And we also saw Tornado 60 marking on the Tornado from the German test unit WTD-61 that landed shortly before the Falcon stopped at the very start of the programme. Yeah, very nice to see those aircraft here, the RAF Fairford. It's been some time since we retired our F3 and GR4 variants, and they are sadly missed. Good Tornado representation here from both Italy and Germany. And in comes the last of the F-16s from the NATO Flypast, our very welcome visitor from Romania. But now, both on the big screens and over the PA, we're going to throw to an interview.
I'm here with Graham, who is part of RIAT, which is Friends of the Royal International Air Tattoo. Graham, how long have you been a part of RIAT?
Just 2 years.
Just 2 years, sort of new for you still?
It's brand new and it's so exciting. I'm buzzing about it. I love it.
What is your favourite thing about being here?
The favourite thing is, first of all, we get to see all these wonderful aircraft. We work throughout the whole week, so we see them lots of times, get to know them. But it's meeting the people. We get people coming to us from all over the world, and to see them, to talk to them, to get to talk about their experiences and their love of aircraft, it's fabulous. And the socialising is really good as well.
The NATO E3s work closely with their French Air and Space Force E3F counterparts stationed at Avor. And they used to do so with the RAF's E3D Sentries of numbers 1823 squadrons at RAF Waddington until those aircraft were retired. The RAF, of course, looking forward to the arrival in service of the E7 Wedgetail to replace the Sentry AW1 fleet. So welcome there to the NATO E3A, and that too is going to be joining the static park for the RIAT weekend over Saturday and Sunday.